Thom Hartmann here on the best of the rest of science and green news. You need to know this. Republicans don't want the EPA to consider the cost of climate change when they approve operating and building permits. Back in January, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives adopted a budgetary practice known as dynamic scoring. This creative accounting measure allows Republicans to use highly questionable math projections when calculating the cost of legislation. In other words, they basically get to pretend that every tax cut creates jobs and that the final cost of the bill should be calculated accordingly. But they don't want the Environmental Protection Agency to consider how much things like superstorms, sea level rise, and environmental cleanup may cost us in the future. Last week, the House approved legislation known as the RAPID Act, which is intended to streamline the EPA permitting process for new projects, but that bill also contained language that specifically prohibits the EPA and other agencies from, quote, considering greenhouse gas emissions and the effects of climate change, end quote, in their environmental review. Apparently, Republicans think by ignoring the reality of global warming, they can avoid dealing with the very real effects. Democratic Congressman Alan Lowenthal spoke to the Think Progress blog about the legislation. He said, the social cost of carbon is an absolutely vital tool to ensure we are spending money wisely and preparing for the future. To stick our heads in the sand on this one is to ignore the facts before us. Thankfully, the White House has promised to veto this legislation, but it probably won't be the last Republican attempt to undermine climate action. It really doesn't matter whether Republicans believe in man-made global warming or not, because the effects of rising temperature can be seen and felt all around us. We can either factor in the cost of preparation or be left holding the bag anyway when the next climate-related disaster strikes. Numerous recent studies have documented the amazing benefits of gut bacteria, and the latest finding adds to the list of advantages. According to a new report published in the journal Science Translational Medicine, ensuring that babies have enough gut bacteria could prevent them from developing asthma. A team of Canadian researchers were working to determine why some children had an increased risk of developing that breathing disorder. By analyzing the gut microbes of 22 babies at high risk of asthma and about 300 who were at low risk, the scientists were able to document a very specific difference. They discovered the babies who received 4 specific bacteria in the first 100 days after birth had immune systems strong enough to protect against asthma. After the first year of life, however, the researchers said that they found little difference in the gut bacteria among children. Although they caution that there is much more to uncover about the relationship between asthma and gut microbes, they hope that eventually this finding will help eliminate that breathing disorder. In the meantime, this study provides yet another reason why we should all keep our gut bacteria healthy and strong and avoid antibiotics unless they're absolutely necessary. Why do Republicans hate our national parks? That's the question we should all be asking after a Utah congressman's vowed to destroy America's best park program. Shortly after Pope Francis told Congress that it was our responsibility to protect our common home, Representative Bob Bishop proposed to block every attempt to save the Land and Water Conservation Fund unless the federal government promises not to try to protect any additional land. This is the guy who Republicans have put in charge of the House Natural Resources Committee. So unless President Obama promises not to designate any more land as a national park, Congressman Bishop will block every attempt to fund the LWCF program, which expired last Wednesday in the midst of the potential government shutdown. The budget-neutral program used fees from oil and gas development to pay for local, state, and national conservation programs, and it has historically enjoyed widespread bipartisan support. This partisan nonsense has nothing to do with parks or conservation, and everything to do with saving the oil companies a few bucks in fees. Call Congress today and tell them to put our national parks ahead of the profits of the oil industry. We've known for some time that a Mediterranean diet can help protect against heart disease, but it turns out the diets rich in nuts, fruits, and fish and olive oil may also lower the risks of developing breast cancer. According to a recent study published in the journal JAMA Internal Medicine, a Mediterranean diet supplemented with 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil a day reduces the risk of breast cancer. Researchers studied 4,000 women between the ages of 60 and 80 who were given instructions to either follow a low-fat diet or a Mediterranean plus olive oil diet. The author of that study said, of course, no study is perfect, but he added, we found a strong reduction in the risk of breast cancer. Scientists believe that there is something in the olive oil that helps lower risk, but they say also that the Mediterranean diet may hold additional benefits. Whether the olive oil or the healthy diet is responsible for the lower risk, it can never be a bad thing to start eating healthier all around. And finally, environmental groups are declaring a victory for the Arctic. After years of protests and activism against drilling in that region, Royal Dutch Shell has announced that they will cease operations in the Arctic. The company originally claimed that they, quote, found indications of oil and gas in the region, but now they say that the amount was, quote, insufficient to warrant further exploration, as if their decision had nothing to do with the mountain of bad publicity and protests that the company dealt with regarding their plans to drill in that region. The world said, Shell no, and for once, it appears that the oil company actually listened. Let's hope that this is a sign of things to come. And that's the way it is, the week of October 5th, 2015. I'm Thom Hartmann on Science and Green News.